So we've all heard from Western and American politicians that Russia is losing the war, their economy is in tatters. Well, let's listen to this American general, whether Russia is losing or they are winning.
First of all, sir, if I could, I'd like to underline your comment about the specificity of the degradation of the Russian forces. Much of the Russian military has not been affected negatively by this conflict. One of those forces is their undersea forces. It's hard to talk in public, as you well know, sir, about undersea warfare and our efforts in that regard. But I can say that the Russians are more active than we've seen them in years, and their patrols into the Atlantic and throughout the Atlantic are at a high level. Most of the time, at a higher level than we've seen in years. And this is, as you pointed out, despite all of the efforts that they're undertaking inside Ukraine.
Okay. Did you catch it?
I did.
Now, I heard that I had to rewind it several times because he was contradicting Representative Courtney there. And because Courtney assumed, well, we've been knocking the Russians back on their hind ends. And
I know, but the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and Fox and the the London Times and Telegraph in London and the Daily Mail and the BBC and all the Western media, Doc, they've been telling us every day for a year the Russians are losing, they're bleeding, their troops are deserting. Ukraine is winning. The Russian army is going to collapse. There's mutiny. It's all a lie, isn't it?
Yes, and you heard that from the commander of the region. I mean,
it's a lie. It's propaganda. It's all propaganda. The Russians are winning.
Yes.
And the only reason the Ukrainians are still there is that the Western nations have spent hundreds of billions of dollars collectively to prop up a corrupt government run by Zelensky, who is stealing unknown amounts of money, he and his generals. And if we didn't prop them up, they would have been wiped out a year ago.
So there's a saying that you can lie to everybody, but you cannot lie to yourself. This is a real general speaking. And this is not a Russian general. This is an American general. These guys keep telling us, oh, Russia is losing. Look, it's just a matter of time. All this will make sense. Me and you, in our lifetime, the Russians can fight till we die, and they will still fight continuously. These guys have been doing this for a very long time. They've been able to shift their economy to wartime economy, even with the support of NATO. The Russians are still fighting. If this isn't amazing, I don't know how to describe this again. I don't know any country in the position of the Russians who can still continue fighting. These guys, note, they are just a single country and they are fighting the entire West alone. Let's not forget that NATO, or the money that the West has pumped into the Ukrainian armed forces, is more than the money that the Russians have spent on their entire military. There is no country in the West that can stand the Ukrainian army with the current support that the Ukrainian army is currently having. There is no army in the West that can confront the Ukrainian army. And I challenge you here to give me a single country that can confront the Ukrainian army now. So those of you who watched yesterday's video that I posted, in the beginning of the video, I played a video of, is it Cyprus former finance minister? Yes. And he spoke about a lot of things. For the sake of those who didn't watch the video, let me show you guys the video again. Watch this video and let us talk about it.
But I can hear somebody saying rationally and convincingly that Putin is the new Hitler and the new threat to Europe. Well, if that is the case, why are we not sending troops to the Ukraine? Because we are bloody hypocrites. We don't really believe that Putin is the new Hitler, but we are sending arms to the Ukrainians to win an unwinnable war. And the result is that Ukraine will be decimated. Russian Democrats will continue to be under the thumb of Putin because this war strengthens Putin within Russia, the Russian Federation, both economically. The Russian economy is doing really very well. Don't hear those people who say that it's about to collapse. It is not about to collapse. The military Keynesianism there works, and it can work for much longer than we will be alive. So Europe has got it completely wrong. In a sense, we're working very furiously against the interests of Europeans and world peace.
I stand to be corrected, but I think his former Cyprus former finance minister, by the way, whichever ways, but what we all know for sure is he's former finance minister of an European country, right? And he spoke about some few things which I think I want to dive deep into. Now, he spoke about the economy of Russia, that the economy of Russia is doing good. Well, the evidence is out. You can all see that today most Western European economies are struggling while the Russian economy is doing extremely well. And he also spoke about Putin's popularity in Russia. Now, the fact is, you see, this was a strengthening Putin's popularity. Now, in the beginning of the war, what the West intended to do was to make sure that they make Putin's popularity come down. So in the beginning of the war, you heard them saying this was an unprovoked war, this is about Putin. They weren't speaking to me and you. They were speaking to the Russians. They wanted the Russians to turn up against Vladimir Putin. But what it actually did was, it rather made Vladimir Putin more popular. Now, when you look at the history of Vladimir Putin in Russia, war makes him very popular. Putin became the president of Russia because of war in the first place. Note, when Putin was appointed as a prime minister of Russia in 1999, nobody knew him. He was leader of FSB, yes. He worked in KGB, yes. He became deputy mayor to St. Petersburg, yes. But nobody still knew him. His popularity was down completely. Now, because of Chechen war, because of what Putin did in Chechnya, in Grozny, Putin became more popular in Russia, and eventually, through that war, he won the 2000 elections in the 1999. Yes. Okay, so it was in 1999, but he took over completely in the year 2000. So wars don't bring Vladimir Putin popularity down. Wars rather make him more popular. Look in 2014 in Crimea. He became more popular in Crimea. And note, Putin has never lost any war. Check the lifetime of Vladimir Putin and see. He has never lost any war in his life. Chechnya, Crimea, Syria. Now, this war they are fighting. It is clear that Putin is going to win. It's just a matter of time. I keep telling you guys this, that it's a matter of time. They will definitely come out victorious. That is a fact. So if you think that, oh, through war, Vladimir Putin's popularity will come down, then that is a big mistake for you. Wars make him more popular. Look at the recent elections that they conducted in Russia. He won the election with over 90% vote. Yes, the West can tell everybody that, oh, he rigged elections, he imprisoned his oppositions, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, even Western observers confirm that Vladimir Putin's popularity in Russia is unmatched. He's very famous in Russia, regardless or whatever they are talking about him or whatever they are saying about him in the media. Now, to those that claim that he's targeting his opposition, the fact is, you see, you can't win against Vladimir Putin. In terms of popularity, he's more famous. The fact is, those guys he targets are, the guys who are purposely planted in the Russian political space to cause this. I don't want to mention names, but you all know this Navalny guy who recently passed away. I mean, there are some certain words I don't want to use here, but I believe you guys are smart enough to understand what I'm trying to say. So that is the fact. You know how we do it. We are going to cover most of the issues happening around the globe. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, and please don't forget to hit on the like button. Now, economist Wolf spoke about Europe, and I want us to listen to what he said. Europe currently are lacking behind, and in fact, it will take Europe another 500 years to get to where America and China is currently. Currently, America and China is far gone. Europe is lacking behind. Let's watch it.
Europe had 500 years to get ready to compete with the United States. They failed. The reason China is ahead is it figured out that form of capitalism which could get it out of poverty, which was its number one goal, because it was poor, backward technologically, underdeveloped, like the whole global south, like all of Africa, like most of Asia, like most of Latin America. There is no contest anymore. All hot technology in the world today comes from the United States or China. Europe, nothing. Nothing.
How did we get here? How? Just some few years ago, Europe controlled the whole world. Europe, with a population of over 500 million, cannot defend yourself. They are relying on America. America with a population of 300 million. So a population of 500 million cannot protect themselves. They have to rely on a country, just a single country, with a population of just 300 million, to protect them against a country with a population of just 140 to 150 million, Russia. Europe is done. The fact is, Europe today has become a colony of America. Today, America controls Europe. The Europeans have no say. And this is the main reason why Uncle Sam hates the Russians so much. They don't like the Russians because the Russians, they don't want to be controlled by Uncle Sam. They are independent on their own. Today, when you look at Europe, the only people that can stand on their own, the only people that are really independent is the Russians. Nobody in Europe can boast of independence, real independence, apart from the Russians. Uncle Sam controls all of them. And there is no single country in Europe today that can stand or that can confront the Russians. No, if I even say a single country, I'm making a big mistake. No, combine the whole of Western Europe, they cannot stand against the Russians. That is why they have to bring in Uncle Sam to protect them. How did they get here? Just in Second World War, Germany had a better army more than Uncle Sam, just in Second World War. Some few years ago, France had a better army, better economy. Today, look at the mess they've created for themselves. And the funny thing is, instead of them, or this is what Russia has been saying, or this has been the Russian position for a very long time, they wanted Europe to stand on their own. They shouldn't be under Uncle Sam. But it's rather unfortunate they see Russia as their main enemy. I don't get it. I was telling you guys about Germany's situation after Second World War under Gorbachev. After before the collapse of the Soviet Union, just under Gorbachev, the Russians agreed and withdrew their forces, around 400 to 600,000 soldiers or troops from Germany. Uncle Sam never left. Yes, when Germany was divided into two, Eastern Front and Western Front, or it was divided into two, Eastern Germany and Western Germany. Yes, Eastern Germany, the Soviets decided to withdraw their troops and allow Germany reunification. What about the Western Front? And that is why many academians believe that Germany is still under the control of Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam never left when the Soviet Union left. You see the mess they created for themselves? Let's go to the next story, guys. Let's talk about America Vice President. So America Vice President has made some statements about Russia, which I want us to go and listen.
Our view is we want peace here. We've been actively pursuing peace from the very beginning of the administration, but the Russians have got to wake up and accept reality here. A lot of people are dying. They don't have a lot to show for it. How many more people are they willing to lose? How many more people are they willing to kill for very little, if any, gain in the military advantage on the ground there? I think the answer is hopefully not that much, but certainly our attitude here is we're going to keep on working for peace, and we hope the Russians actually wake up to the reality on the ground.
Now, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump keep saying, we want peace, we want peace. And Putin has consistently said he wants the war to end. But we have to go back to the root cause of this war. If we fail to address the root cause of this war, then the war will always exist. What is it difficult here for Uncle Sam to understand? What is it difficult here for J.D. Vance to understand here? What Putin is saying that let us address the root cause of the war, which is Ukraine is not going into NATO. That is a fact, and that is what the Russians' position is. What brought this war? Ukraine, ambition to join NATO brought up this whole war. America, according to America, no, this guy, I don't know how many of you know him, not a guy, he's a professor. Let me not use a guy. I respect him so much. Professor John Meshama. He asked a simple question. If we all sleep and wake up and one day Canada decides to bring in the Russian army, or decide to partner with China or Iran, is America going to accept? The answer is hell no. Remember, in the Cold War, what happened? In the Cold War, when Americans placed their weapons in Turkey, aiming at Moscow, the Soviet Union also decided to partner with Fidel Castro of Cuba and also place their weapons in Cuba, aiming at all the major cities in America. What did America do to Cuba? Cuba is still under sanctions just because of that deal, or just because of them allowing the Soviet Union to place their weapons there. In fact, America went wild. That was the boiling point of the Cold War. So if Uncle Sam will not agree for their adversary to put weapons on their borders, how then do you expect the Russians to be cool or to be quiet? Or why should the Russians accept you to put your weapons on their borders? I mean, how is this difficult for any rational human being to understand? I don't get it. So what the Russians are saying is, let us address the root cause of this war, which you guys knowingly decide to ignore what Putin is saying. Then you keep coming in the media making noise. Oh, we want the war to stop. How do you want the war to stop? If you want the war to stop, then address the root cause of the war. And you also spoke about the Russians have little to show for. They are bombing, cities, and they are killing innocent people, and they have little to show for. Mr. J.D. Vance, Mr. Vice President, I don't know if you know this, but the Russians do not fight for territories. When you look at the Russian military-industrial complex, or when you look at the history of Russia, they do not fight for territories. When they are at war, their main objective is not about capturing just territories, unless these territories have something significant to them, or unless these territories have some advantage, not disadvantage, but there is some form of advantage to these territories. That is when they will commit their troops to. But if these territories are not that important, they will not sacrifice their soldiers just to gain a piece of land. That has never been the Russian military doctrine. Their military doctrine is simple. Their military doctrine is to defeat the enemy. After defeating the enemy, they will go back and take everything. You can go back and check even the winter war with Finland. They were not fighting for territories after defeating Finland. Finland willingly gave up their territory, which Stalin wanted, to the Russians. No, I won't even go far. In 2008, the Russians were not fighting for territory in Georgia. After defeating the Georgians, they told the Georgians the part of Georgia that they wanted, and they annexed it. You can go back to the Second World War. The Russians were never fighting for territories in the Second World War. No. When they defeated Hitler forces or the Nazis all the way to Berlin, they weren't capturing territories. That was not their main objective. Note, most of these territories that the Russians took, Kaliningrad, Crimea. Note, are you aware that after defeating Hitler forces, that was when Russia even came back to take Crimea? So the Russian objective is not about capturing territories in war. That has never been their objective. That has never been their style of warfare. So if you are judging the Russians by territories that they have captured, then Mr. Vice President, this is a big mistake, and I think you need to go back to your history books and learn more about Russia. One thing about J.D. Vance is he speaks like a petrol today. The next day, he will start speaking something else. I don't know why he behaves that way, by the way. I think it is because of Donald Trump. One thing I've realized about Donald Trump is he's paranoid about Russia because, you see, they keep saying that he's a puppet of Putin. They keep saying that Putin brought him to power. I hope you guys remember his first elections. You know, they said the Russians rigged the elections in favor of him. So I believe that Trump is trying to prove a point that he's not afraid of Putin or he's not a puppet of Russia. You know, I think this guy, he's paranoid. He's trying to, you know, prove a point that I am not owned by Russia. That is what this guy is trying to do. That is what I see. Yes. So we've all seen in the mainstream media about shortage of fuel in Russia. You've seen it, right? Oh, we've all seen it. Even Donald Trump spoke about it. He said Ukraine is hitting Russian gas pipelines and, you know, the shortage of fuel in Russia currently. Well, I want us to watch a video of Russians speaking about this whole fuel shortage. Yes, I want us to watch this video.
Will Russia actually run out of gas because of Ukrainian drone strikes? Ukraine has stepped up attacks on Russian oil refineries, and Western media quickly ran with reports of fuel shortages and rising prices. Even Donald Trump, in yet another U-turn on Ukraine, called Russia a paper tiger and claimed Russians can barely fill up their cars because of the long lines.
They have put it all out on the line. Their economy is going to hell.
Well, I live in Russia and I have a car, so I decided to check it myself. Well, this is a typical gas station here in Moscow, and well, as you can see, there are no lines, no panic, just a usual day. 92 is 70 cents per liter, and 95 is 82 cents per liter. Of course, some might argue that Moscow is shielded from shortages, so I drove outside the city and stopped at several gas stations. Well, this station is open and no lines. Same here, open, no lines. 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 I even called my friends in other regions and asked them to check their local stations.
Hey guys, it's Dan from Wild Siberia. Now they say that there's a fuel shortage all over Russia. Now it would impact where I live the most because I live in Irkutsk Oblast in Sludanka, a small town in Siberia, and as you can see, there's no major lines. We're about to put some fuel in. I'll tell you how much it costs after, but no panic. People can come and go as they wish. And here are the prices. It's a little bit glitchy, but it's 59.68 for the 92 and 63.20 for the 95.
Костя, привет! Из Екатеринбурга, Свердловской области, приехал на заправку. Бензин стоит у нас 95-й 62 рубля, 92-й там 57. о каких-то очередях я не слышал, знал только от тебя, машина заправляется, уезжает, все в порядке.
Hello, my name is João and I live in south of Russia, and today, 24th of September 2025, I want to show how much it costs the petrol in Russia. As you can see, there is no lines and no competition to put petrol, just a normal day here. It's not a very high price, it's 73 rubles per liter, so it's a bit higher than normal, but not extreme still.
Most of the viral clips with long queues come from Russia's Far East. That's thousands of miles from Ukraine, actually closer to Alaska than to Moscow. So why would strikes on central Russian refineries cause gas lines there, but not in regions right next to Ukraine? Here's what I found. Russia's Far East has had fuel shortages long before the war. I dug up local news from 2020 and 2021. Same story. Empty pumps, long lines. The region has very few refineries of its own, and every time demand spikes, like this fall when farmers need fuel for harvest, stations run dry and prices jump.
Fantastic piece from this YouTuber. He's a Russian YouTuber, by the way. Bro, I wish the problem is I only see his videos on Telegram, so I don't know his actual channel name. I don't know the channel name. I wish I knew his channel name. By the way, I'll search for the channel. If I find it, I will put the link in the description for you guys to go and watch more of his videos. What he does, I've seen a couple of his videos. What he does is he debunks this whole mainstream narrative, right? Most of the things they say about Russia, he brings the truth out. After watching this video and you still think there's shortage of fuel in Russia, then it's up to you. Well, we all know Viktor Orban, right? Yes. Listen to what Viktor Orban said. The EU has turned into military projects aimed at confronting Russia. Viktor Orban. In Brussels, they openly say that the task for next decade is to defeat Russia on Eastern Front, said the Hungarian Prime Minister. Wow. When Brussels talks about peace in Europe, it actually means war, he added. What do you have to say? Every rational human being knows that he's speaking the truth. Unless you don't want the truth. He's speaking facts. It's kind of like he entered my head and he's speaking exactly what I think about this whole thing. So we all know Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin spokesperson. He was granted an interview, but he spoke in the Russian language, which I know most of you don't understand the Russian language. So I want to translate for you guys. I want you guys to listen to what he said. The press secretary of Russian President Dmitry Peskov commented on Vladimir Zelensky's statement about possible attacks on Kremlin. So those of you who don't know, Zelensky said, he's going to attack Kremlin if Putin decides to attack Ukraine electrical facility, which we all know that the Russians are definitely going to attack. We all know this. By the way, let's continue. Zelensky is trying to show the Europeans who will now act as providers that he is such a brave soldier. Meanwhile, the situation on the front indicates the opposite. With each passing day, the situation for armed forces of Ukraine and Ukraine negotiating position is relentlessly deteriorating, and this must be acknowledged. I think they understand this internally, but here they are bluffing, unfortunately. Our Supreme Commander-in-Chief has already spoken about how Russia will respond to Ukraine attempts to attack the Kremlin. It's better not to even talk about it, and everyone understands this, by the way. So what he's talking about here is, so Vladimir Putin has already spoken about how the Russian Federation will respond to Ukraine if they attempt to attack the Kremlin. By the way, I don't think this is new. somewhere in 2023, 2024, you know, there were attempts to attack the Kremlin. We've seen it over and over again. So this is not new. Even if they attack the Kremlin, we've seen it before, by the way. This is not new. So that is Dmitry Peskov for you. Now, there's something I read here which I think I have to explain for you. He said, Zelensky is trying to show the Europeans who will now act as his providers. Now, this part, let me explain it into details. You see, Donald Trump openly said that he's not going to give weapons to Ukraine for free again. He's going to sell these weapons to the Europeans. Then the Europeans will now give these weapons to Ukraine. That is why Dmitry Peskov said, he said, Zelensky is trying to show the Europeans who will now act as his providers. You understand that he is such a brave soldier. So he's trying to please the Western Europeans that, yes, I'm a good boy, I'm a good soldier. You get a point? So this is what Dmitry Peskov is trying to say. Well, NATO General Secretary have a message for all of us. According to him, they live in an era where they did not seek. So Russia just decided to bring war back to Europe, which they never intended to. By the way, watch him.
We are in an age of confrontation. This is confrontation we did not seek. It was contrived in capitals working to undermine us. Moscow, Beijing, Pyongyang, and Tehran. Russia has brought war back to Europe and has teamed up with China, North Korea, and Iran to expand their capabilities and their ability to exert influence. But history shows that North America and Europe working together is a winning combination. Our adversaries know this. Our enduring commitment to NATO's Article 5, that an attack on one is an attack on all, sends a powerful message. And
point of correction, Mr. General Secretary. It was not Russia who brought war back to Europe. Note, in 1999, when you went to Yugoslavia and bombarded Yugoslavia into two, you made half Kosovo, half Serbia. Do you remember that? Yes, that was when you brought war back to Europe. The Russians did warn you in 1999 that what you were doing was very dangerous. You guys decided to carry on and bombarded Yugoslavia. So it was not Russia who brought war back to Europe. Now the problem is these guys continue to make it look like they are innocent. But you know very well that you provoked this war by attempting to, recruit Ukraine into NATO, which we all know that this is the main cause of the war. But these guys continue to make it look like, they had nothing to do with the war. It's kind of like Putin is a madman. He just wake up one day and said, okay, let's go to Ukraine, let's go and bombard the whole country. I mean, you see, that's how they make the whole thing look like. You get a point. So that is NATO General Secretary for you, by the way. I don't think this is new for anybody who has been following this war from day one. We all know how these guys behave, by the way. It's not easy to watch this video to the last end. In fact, if you watch this video to the last end, type Timo in the comment section. Type Timo so that I will know those of you who watch the video to the last end. I am trying to bring you guys more of this long form video so that you guys will enjoy more in-depth analysis. Thank you very much for watching this video once again. Let me add this. You see, the yesterday's attack, I spoke about it. I am waiting to get more information because after the attack, the Ukrainians said this is one of the biggest attack ever. But we've still not heard from the Russian side. So if I get more information about the attack, I will bring it to you guys. I will let you guys know more about the attack. Love you guys. Thank you. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.